the Irish NFL Show. We're delighted to be joined by Erin Coscarelli, Rams reporter for Bleav Media. Erin, the Rams' shadow hangs very heavily across this Super Bowl. I think it's a fascinating matchup in that when we watched that NFC Championship game, we saw what the Rams were able to do against that Seattle defense. We were talking to Dan Orlovsky about this a little bit earlier on. That's the template if you can take it from a Patriots point of view, but I mean, nobody can do that the way the Rams do it, right? And it's achingly close that they got to being here to play this game, and you really got to look at what that offense was able to do to that Seattle defense.
Yeah, it is. It's bittersweet. You know, you have moments that it's always so hard. And it's funny because I was listening to some of the sound bites from McVay's presser. I couldn't be there because obviously I'm here. They just extended him, and he was making, a comment about maybe not even being able to watch the Super Bowl. And when you get so close, it's interesting to me, the mindset of someone who puts their heart and soul, whether you're a player or a coach or an executive, or even, covering the Rams this season. I found myself really inserting in my own moments of, wow, I feel the themes and the emotions of what a pro athlete would feel, which is like trying really hard and wanting to get it done, or letting somebody down when I've let someone down, and to get so close and then you don't make it. Does that feel worse and harder than just, having a terrible regular season and not going to the post game? I mean, you get to the big game or you have the opportunity, you just can't advance. The letdown from that's heartbreaking, I'm sure.
And we know of old how Sean McVay dealt with their bitter disappointment of losing that Super Bowl to the Patriots, the famous 13-3 game, how he was able to bottle that and what that did to fuel the Rams' ultimate march to that Lombardi trophy. So it's not difficult to imagine in your mind's eye that that's exactly what he's going to hope to go through again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this team, the Rams, a very bright future. I think it's just figuring out how to keep this team collectively together during the offseason, as it is with any pro team. During the offseason, you go really far, contracts get extended, you have to make tough decisions whether or not to keep guys, look ahead to the draft. Are they going to pick up a quarterback? And then what's that dynamic going to be like with Stafford, kind of rearing along the heir apparent. That's why it's interesting, though, and that's why I think football in any sort of facet is interesting to anyone, because there's so many themes that are unique in parallels to life, business, figuring out if you have to cut some of the talent. What does that look like? And then how do you navigate and manage the storms along the way, which is what McVay would say. So I just, I think it's cool. It was a great season. It's hard to be here when this, like you said, they went toe to toe with them in all three games. They pulled out a win at home against SoFi, against Seattle. I forget what week it was. It's been a blur, needless to say, this season. But they're almost at the end, and they couldn't pull it off. So.
But watching the coaching carousel unfold, great bit of business by the Rams, A, to extend McVay, obviously, but B, that they've held on to Chris Shula, who could have headed for pastures new. That's a really promising platform that it sets for next season, because I would guess they probably were planning to be without him.
And every year with any coordinator McVay brings on, it's almost like you have to worry, like, please, I hope you don't leave, because they do so well in his organization.
I'm sure he must be thinking, I don't want there to be a McVay tree. Let's just keep the acorns right here. Thanks very much.
It's like, it's bittersweet, because he brings these guys along, and he's such a people person. He really roots for his guys, but then at the same time, think about it, you're kind of left with having to start all over again. And, with McVay, he's such a unique character because he does elect and delegate very well. He's got really good people around him. But then at the same time, he is so committed. He calls the plays offensively. He's really the guy in charge, him and Matt Stafford. Figuring out who would follow suit is not easy when you lose, their offensive coordinator. Mike LaFleur went to a division rival in Arizona, and now he's got to bring, and I'm sure he'll bring on like Neil Schilhaus. The last part of that name is always a little dicey for me. But he's a brilliant young coach. as are all the guys that are on the staff for the Rams. So the future's bright. It's just always tough when people think your talent's great. They want to recreate it.
You've watched this Seattle team very closely. Of course, you got a close look at them 3 times now this season. What do you expect from them on Sunday?
Not a lot of mistakes. They played pretty clean football, very disciplined, mistake-free football the last time, which is categorically uncharacteristic for Sam Darnold when he's played the Rams. Even before the Rams, even before he was with Seattle, he had a ton of mistakes when he was with the Vikings the year before. And that's why I'm happy to see stories like that emerge out of the NFL, because it doesn't mean you're someone should give up on you. Maybe give them another chance.
We saw that with Jared Goff, right, when he left LA.
That's right. And develop and give people a chance to develop into something. And he just ended up going into the right system. And Seattle loves him. And, he's a former Trojan. So I remember not really covering him when I went to USC. So I love those types of stories. And I think just commit mistake-free football. And that defense will swarm, a young Drake May. And I think just continue to capitalize. Don't take your foot on the gas and do what you did to the Rams.
Well, as you mentioned, you're a USC alumnus. So you've prompted me to ask you the obvious question. I'm a Bears fan. So your guy Caleb's been doing some pretty special things this season. Didn't quite get it over the line against the Rams. So I'm happy for you that didn't happen. But it was good for me.
Yeah, no, and again, another cool story of someone who struggled. I think he was sacked the most as a rookie. And then, boy, I think that number either cut in half. They really invested in their offensive line, and they really invested in developing him as a young mind. And then you get plays like that in Chicago when they're like, this has got to be the way this is going to end. And you're like, I can't even believe he did that. Incredible play, gutsy, clutch, and it worked out. But unfortunately, the Rams were able to, they've got a guy like Matthew Stafford that can, cool, calm, collected under pressure, and didn't get the win. But the future's bright. And that's what's cool about Caleb.
You expect them to reload next year in LA with Stafford at the helm, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think he's for sure coming back. I think I can't even foresee what the future would look like, because McVay and Stafford are so in sync, and they're both kind of cut from the same cloth. They're very humble, really, really smart, big players, guys. Anything's possible, but I would imagine he'd probably be back in LA.
Erin, thanks very much for joining us on the Irish NFL Show. It's been great to have you. Enjoy the rest of your stay on Radio Row and enjoy the game on Sunday. We're looking forward to it, as I'm sure you are too.
Thank you.